Hi, today we will be interviewing Chelsea Canty, a speech-language pathologist. First, could you briefly introduce yourself and describe your path to becoming a speech-language pathologist?
Yeah, so my name's Chelsea Canty. I'm 34. I have three little girls, 3, 2, and 4 months old. My path to becoming a speech therapist, I worked in a school one summer when I was home from college. I was an extended school year aide. And the little girl that I was a one-on-one with went to speech. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So I looked it up, found out that my college had the degree. I was playing D1 softball at the time. So I was lucky that it was some type of medical degree that we were allowed to do, because a lot of times you're not allowed to because it's too many clinicals. So then I looked it up, found out our program had a 5-year combined program. So I went through, did my bachelor's for my 4 years, and then it's typically a 2-year master program. But since there was a combined program option, I finished my master's in 5.5 years is what it ended up being.
Instead of 6.
Instead of 6. There's a couple programs like that out there for it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
You like that program?
Yeah, it was a great program. I went to Boston University. So for speech, it's one of the better ones. Their grad programs are really tiny though. So I think my master's program only had like 20 people in it, 25 people in it. So the classes are really tiny, which is awesome because you get to know everybody. It's kind of like a little family. Like we're all still a Facebook post like group together. So, I mean, it's a bit of a journey once you graduate. So you graduate with your master's, but kind of like how a doctor is, you do have a fellowship year where you have to accrue so many hours out in the workforce as a fellow before you're fully credentialed. So even though you graduate with your master's, there is still a window of time where you're considered a fellow before you're fully licensed and certified to practice on your own.
And before entering this career, were there any other careers that you considered pursuing?
Yeah. So I went into college as an accounting major. And then I took a couple accounting classes and I was like, ooh, I kind of hate everybody that's in these classes. I would never be friends with you people. And it dawned on me that they would also be my coworkers. And I was like, ooh, this is like a hard no for me. So then I thought about being a special ed teacher. And then after that whole summer of being in a special ed classroom, I was like, there's no way I could do this for that many years. I started to have a mental freak out that I was like, how could anybody want to do one thing for 30 years? And then when I looked up speech, that was one of the things that really like turned me on about speech is you can switch up your setting and be completely doing something else. So you can work with like you could be in a NICU working with NICU babies all the way up and through like geriatrics. You could work in hospice care and with the elderly and literally everything in between. If you want to be super medical, you could be in a hospital and be working on feeding and swallowing or stroke victims and cognition. You could be working with transitioning kids with autism out into the real workforce and like literally everything in between. So I was like, oh my God, so if I hate what I'm doing, I can just like switch what I'm doing and still use my degree. It's fine. I'm not pigeonholed, pretty much.
It's actually really cool. I didn't know there were like all these other areas of it. Was the transition hard between those like 3 things, like special ed, accounting, and speech therapy?
Not really, because I kind of shuffled through them pretty quickly in college. Like, so playing you have to declare your major by the time your sophomore year starts. So it's like one of the rules when you're playing D1. So you had to really decide. So I felt like my freshman year, I was going education, and then I was like starting to dabble in that, and I was like, absolutely not. I can't do the management. So if you go into speech, it's very science based. So you're in the school of science. You're doing a lot of kind of more science based.
So now, what does a day in your life look like, and what kinds of challenges or conditions do you often work with?
So I'm sure if you talk to every speech therapist, you'll probably get a different answer for this, mainly because of, like I said, your different settings are going to really change how your day looks. Right now, I actually own my own private clinic. So through my journeys, I've worked in schools, which my day would have literally looked like I woke up and almost like a teacher's day. I went into work. I would see kids in small groups for 30 minutes long throughout the day. And then I'd go home and leave and have a teacher schedule. Then I worked in a skilled nursing facility. So if you asked me when I was working there, I would be like, I get there at like 7 a.m. Depending on my schedule that day, I can be there till 7 p.m. or I could be there till 1, and I get paid hourly, and your schedule's super inconsistent and you're on your feet all day. But now I work in a private clinic, which I feel like if most speech therapists have ever landed in a private clinic, they usually don't leave them. So like today, I took my kids swimming at my neighbor's house all morning, brought them home. We had some mac and cheese and chicken nuggets and broccoli, put them down for naps. My husband came home from work at like 3 o'clock, and then I came into work for a couple hours. When I'm here, I do treatments. So I typically see kids one-on-one. All the services are 30 minutes. We work primarily with children here. So my day consists of a lot of play with chutes and ladders, dragons, dinosaurs, trucks, farm sets, trying to elicit language out of little kids. So that's a lot of what my day is. But now that I work in a private clinic, my day's pretty chill. Before I owned a clinic, I typically, if you work in private clinics, your hours are typically afternoon and evening, because you have to think most of the kids are in school all day. So when I worked in a private clinic before I owned one, I worked from like 1 to 7, Monday through Friday. So you typically are off in the mornings if you work in private clinics.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long do you like usually work with your patients? Is it usually like a longer period of time or like shorter, like less than a month?
So it's never less than a month. Unless it's something along the lines of maybe like a fluency kid who just needs to learn some strategies, who's stuttering, that can last just a couple months, maybe like 4 to 6 months before they really have the strategies down. For like an older child or adult, typically you see kids for at least a year, depending on what services they need. I would probably say around a year is pretty typical for, say, like somebody with speech sounds. But I think the most challenging thing is usually the kids, as they gain skills, they're getting older and they're supposed to have even more new skills. So a lot of it's really trying to bridge this gap of like, all right, we caught up with what they should have been doing, but now they're a year older. There's all these other things that they should have been doing as well. So trying to bridge that gap as quickly as possible.
Okay. And has working with patients changed the way that you kind of communicate in your personal life?
Yes and no. I would definitely say, how do I word this? Having more grace for people, I think, is a lot of it, because I think it's easy to judge other people and judge people's parenting or judge how a child is acting when you're out in public, especially. So I feel like giving people a lot more grace throughout the day is something that my career has definitely helped me have. Like, just being able to look at somebody and be like, you know what, that kid could be battling a lot of things, and so could those parents. So really just kind of being mindful that like everyone's kind of on their own journey, and it's everyone's first time doing life. I tell myself that a lot. Like, not everyone knows what they're doing. So just trying to like help people when they want help, and learning how to just pull back when people don't want help.
Yeah. So do you also work a lot with the parents of children and their families?
Yeah, so especially the littles. So like the youngest one that we have in the clinic right now is only 13 months. Yeah, so cute, right? So a lot of it is also teaching the parents what to do at home to help them. Because not saying that parents don't know how to play, but a lot of the times parents are like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I get it. It's a little challenging, but like, just get on the floor. That's usually what we have to talk about. Like, trying to help show them what to do. For the older kids, we pull them into the sessions the last 5 minutes, kind of show them what we did for the day, give them some homework, go over it with them. All of the parents here also sign video consents. So if something really awesome is happening, like say a kid has been hasn't really made a lot verbally and they make their first word, we'll try to record it so the parents have evidence of it, because I'm like, it's so sad you missed your kid's first word. So we try to record a lot too, to show parents, so that there's a great connection between therapy and them.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Can you share a moment in your career that felt really meaningful and kind of like reaffirmed why you chose the career?
Yeah. So a lot of new science is coming out that there's a really high comorbidity between kids who are on the spectrum and a speech disorder called Apraxia. So instead of us just saying that these kids have been nonverbal and putting them on AAC devices and being like, oh, that's the best they're ever going to do, we've started to learn that a lot of these kids actually are having it's a motor planning issue. So it's like they know what they want to say in their brain, but somewhere between like making that plan and executing it, it gets all messed up. So like they have like large groping movements, this and that. And there was one kid that I was working with that I hadn't seen. He had been in and out of our clinic. He did a makeup with me. And I was looking, Apraxia is like my favorite thing to treat. I was like looking at him and I was like, you are apraxic. And within one session, I got him to be able to say mom and recorded it. And he was completely nonverbal before that, like never made a meaningful word. So I recorded it and showed mom, and like having that moment with her where like she was breaking down crying, I was crying for her. Like it was just such a moment, because I was like, we can get him there. Like everyone always told her like, oh, he's so good at the AAC, that's where he's going to be. But to really have that moment where I was like, no, this kid can talk. We're going to get him there. And now he'll tell you he loves Bluey and he chit chats all day and tells you about yourself. So it's just, that was a really cool moment for a kid that I felt like people had written off.
Yeah. How long was that session?
They're 30 minutes. Every session's 30 minutes. So and apraxia is like, once you go to school and you learn all about it, there's specific ways you're supposed to be cueing kids and helping them talk. It's just nobody sat him down and was like, let's do this. And really tried to work through like the mouth movements he was making and things like that.
That's actually really cool. That's so nice. Yeah. What's the most challenging part of your job, and what's the most rewarding part of your job?
The most challenging part, especially with little kids, I would say is like behavior management almost. It's something that you're not really taught a lot about in school as a speech therapist, but a lot of times kids have a lot of behaviors that come out, especially because if they can't talk or they're having trouble talking, it's really frustrating and it can be really discouraging, especially if they understand that they're not doing it correctly. So learning how to help them get through those tough moments where they don't want to do it anymore, they shut down at the table. I think that can be very challenging. Anyone will also tell you parents are the worst to deal with. So like when you work with kids, their parents are terrible to work with. Not all of them. Most of them are really awesome, but you're going to have your tough parent or two. There's only a couple, I would say, that are like tough. Other than that, they're all pretty supportive. But then like the flip side is when I worked in a skilled nursing home, you're working with the parents. It's their children that come in that are then difficult to work with. So I think in any setting, working with that person's caretaker or loved one is gonna be a challenge, I think, no matter what you do in a medical field. And then what was the second part of the question?
Rewarding part of your job.
Most rewarding part? Oh, just like when they finally can say what they want to say. That's like easy peasy one. Like when their faces light up because they realize that they said something and somebody understood it. Or like even seeing how elated the parents are with like just those moments are just awesome.
Yeah. After they like get better, after your patients get better, do you follow up with them for like a period of time?
No, not typically. So we usually tell parents when somebody's ready for discharge and they've met their milestones and they're all caught up, we usually inform parents of what the next milestones are and when they should be meeting them by. And if they aren't, to just please give us a call again. There's been a couple that like once they're out of my practice and everything, the parents will request me on Facebook and things like that. So I've kept up with people in that sense. But I don't usually do that until they've graduated and they've left. Like, I don't befriend parents while they're here type thing.
Also, going back to like the challenges in your job, do you think it's like harder to manage like your own clinic as opposed to like working at a clinic?
Yes and no. I mean, you don't have the worry. So like you could run your own clinic where it was just me. And then I wouldn't have to worry about hiring other clinicians in, worrying about them canceling, bigger schedules to manage. So opening a clinic like we have here, we have 10 other speech therapists that work here. That makes it more challenging. It's just managing employees and schedules and things like that. But I do know a couple speech therapists who literally just have their own standalone office. It's just them. They'll probably have a wait list really long. So that's something that I think would be challenging, is like knowing that people are waiting for slots. But if you did want to alleviate the burdens of the private clinic, then you could just do it by yourself instead.
Okay. And what qualities or skills do you think are essential for a person like in this career to have or develop?
Most people, I will say, are like type A people. Like, they're very structured, very organized. If you looked at probably 95% of the people that were in our classes binders, they'd be color coded and coordinated. I'm not that girl. There's a good number of us that are very much like fly off the handle type of people. But we're definitely the margins. We are not the majority in our career. But definitely being personable, because you're going to be talking all day. You have to be outgoing. I think that's honestly probably the biggest one. And then on your toes, like, you have to be somebody that, even though you're type A, you can't go in there with plans all the time.
Yeah.
Because like, it's a little 2-year-old, and if you want to play with farm, he might not want to play with farm that day. So if you created this whole plan of what to do, you have to be okay with pretty much life going off the rails here and there, and figuring out ways to still do what you needed to do, but be more flexible about it. So I would definitely say being super personable, outgoing, but like also flexible would be a really important thing.
That makes sense. And if someone's unsure whether this career is right for them, what signs do you think they should look for in themselves that would kind of say that this career is like a good fit for them?
If you are somebody who really wants to help other people, I mean, if you're thinking along those lines, I think that's a big one. I think if you're somebody who likes the science field, because that's really a lot of what you're doing, I think that would be a really good sign for you. And also somebody that's like, doesn't like everything to always be the same all the time. Like, if you're somebody that doesn't want to go in and has to do the same thing every single time you're at work, it probably is a good sign for you to go into this type of career. Because if you are bored with it, you can switch it up, and every single kid wants to do different things with the same toys, and you never quite have the same day twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. How easy is it to like switch between, like you said, you could work with like older patients and like really young patients. How easy is it to like switch between those positions?
So my husband will tell you it's insane that, like, if like I was literally working in the school and I was like, I'm done. I'm tapped out. I've been here for 7 years. Enough's enough. I applied to like 3 or 4 different SNFs, and within the week had interviews, was hired that next week.
Right.
So like, there's job openings like crazy for speech therapists. There's not enough of us. So if you want some job security, you will always have a job as a speech therapist. It's not that challenging to maneuver between settings. I think it would be more challenging if you, say, hadn't gone into the adult population in 10 years, because you're going to be a little rusty and not up with the science of it. So a lot of times, like, we have a couple people here who work with like adult or older teen populations that work here to stay fresh with the kids. So that can happen a lot. And like, you can work per diem at SNFs. Like, I know a couple speech therapists who like work in the schools. So they work with kids all day, but then they're per diem, meaning like they just pick up random shifts at like nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities and things like that to keep that fresh. It would be most challenging to try to just bop into a very medical setting like a hospital, because they like years of you being in like medical facilities, like long-term care facilities, to even get your foot in working in a hospital. So that would be more challenging. Like if you really wanted to be like, I want to work in acute care in a hospital, it's going to take you a little bit, and that has to be your path for a while to build up the resume for something like that.
Okay.
But the other types of settings, you really can bop around between them pretty easily.
Did you mention if you worked at the hospital before?
So I didn't. Once I graduated, one of my placements was in a hospital. So when you're in your master's program, you have clinical placements the whole time you're there, where you work under a supervisor at those settings. So I did work. I worked at Boston Medical for like 5 months.
Nice. How did you like it there?
Oh, it was really cool. It was like kind of scary because I mean, you're also like learning everything, and like, not that you could probably ever kill somebody as a speech therapist, but like doing swallowing and things like that can be a little dicey. So I think that was a little bit more nerve-wracking, but it was fun. It was fast-paced. It was quick. You're on your feet all day. Like, it was cool. You're in scrubs. They feel like pajamas. Like, it was a lot of fun, but it would be something that you would have to be extremely flexible.
Okay.
Because like no two patients are ever the same. You're doing a lot of trachs, so it's a lot of mucus and gross vents and things like that. So like you'd have to have a pretty strong stomach to be in a hospital too. But I mean, I don't think I'd want to do it forever, personally. Plus, you don't like get to see people's growth. So like if you think of like hospital settings, what you pretty much would do in a day was like evaluate somebody, come up with like a very short-term plan for them, what was safe for them in the hospital, safe for them to eat, could they speak, how great was their cognition. Once medically they were stable, they would get shifted out.
Okay.
You don't really see patients that long. There's no like, oh, I made that person better. That's not really something you do in the hospital. You don't make anyone better. You're just acutely like evaluating them pretty much to get baselines.
Yeah. And for the swallowing, how do you typically treat that? Or how do you help them?
So there's a lot that goes into it. There's actual like x-rays that are moving x-rays that you could do. They're called a modified barium swallow, where they eat food that has barium in it. And then we watch on the x-ray. It takes a whole bunch of pictures really fast so that it looks like a moving x-ray, so we can see where the food's going. It's a very, very specifically timed mechanism, your swallow. So if the timing is off at all and your airway isn't getting closed off in time, you could be trickling food down into your lungs. Some people can feel it, some people can't. That's how people get pneumonia. So if you ever hear of people getting pneumonia, that's a big one. It's because food's going into their airways and their lungs, and it shouldn't be, food and liquids. So there's a couple different things that you can do in order to like strengthen their muscles, improve their awareness. You can change the consistencies of their food. You can thicken it. You can say they can only have like hard foods versus softer foods. They can thicken or thin the liquids. So maybe they can't have thin liquids because it goes back too quickly. Things like that. And then there's also a test where they put a camera through their nose and you can see just this part of the swallow. So you get a little bit less information, but it's not the moving x-ray pretty much.
And what advice would you give to people interested in entering this field?
I would say to reach out to some clinics and things like that to be able to do observations, because we've had people do that before where they reach out and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about going into this field. They just have to sign some HIPAA forms and then they can come shadow for a day. So that would be something I would recommend, is like reaching out to some people. A lot of times you don't realize that your friends are friends with speech therapists. So just trying to be able to shadow for a day to see if it is something that you'd like.
Well, thank you so much for the interview. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, of course.